Breaking news coming in, and this is in regard to China hitting back at the United States. China set to impose tariffs now, whether it's on U.S. oil or on U.S. coal. This is China announcing a decision that they've come up with. So China's finance ministry has announced a package of tariffs on a range of U.S. products in an immediate response to that 10% tariff on Chinese imports announced by U.S. President Donald Trump that went into effect at about 12:01 a.m. this morning, the result of an executive order issued over the weekend aiming at pressurizing Beijing to crack down on fentanyl shipments into the United States. The Chinese government swiftly has announced a series of retaliatory steps, including additional tariffs on coal, natural gas, farm machinery, and other products from the United States. It also said that it had implemented restrictions on the export of certain critical minerals, many of which are used in the production of high-tech products. So now China hitting back, and to know more on this, we have Vishal joining us. Vishal, China going a step ahead. In fact, they're trying to impose now 15% tariffs when it comes to U.S. coal.
That is correct. So this needs to be looked at in a lot of different ways. The first is that there was already a trade war between China and US in the recent past. When Trump had walked in to the White House for the first time, there was a trade war between both the countries, which had gone on for some time. Although it was a low-key affair back then, and it was handled by both the countries in sort of a proper manner. This time it remains to be seen how that unfolds, because Trump has been going on after many countries with these measures, and there has already been 25% tariffs which were announced, but they were later retracted. A lot of activities on that front, and China has also jumped in. It has responded with some retaliatory tariffs, as you mentioned, 15% on coal and 10% on oil. So how far China is willing to go on this path, that remains to be seen, because both these countries, as I mentioned, have been on the same path in the recent past, about 5-6 years ago. So all of that will come into picture, and US and China are some of the biggest trade partners in the world, and they cannot, risk damaging the ties. But at the same time, there has been trade wars in the past. So all of that will also come into picture, and what remains to be seen is how US now goes forward. So that will have to be looked at.
Right, Vishal, just stay with us. We also have Anil Trigunayat, former ambassador, joining us as well. So the ministry has gone on to say that 15% tariff will apply on US coal as well as natural gas. An additional 10% tariff will be imposed on crude oil. This will all take into effect from the 10th of February, basically in less than a week's time from now. So we're talking about, the US there, just after their tariffs that have been imposed on Chinese products, which came into effect from early this morning at about 12 a.m. This is the move that China is making. How do you see this panning out in terms of, the relationship between the two countries?
The relationship is not friendly, as we can say, but they have been trying to adjust and accommodate in a G2 format, that they can decide the fate of the world between US and China. That is something that one is witnessing happening. Now, China is also not a country that takes everything lying down. Diplomacy is reciprocity. And United States and Russia and China have been at this trade war for a very long time. And this Sino-US trade war has taken its toll. Earlier, it was more geopoliticized rather than geoeconomized. But now it is as far as Trump is concerned, he's very fond of tariffs. Even before taking over, he was saying that he'll put about 60%, 10 to 60% tariffs on the Chinese goods. Essentially, they want to reduce the trade deficit. That was his basic objective. But China, even before Trump took over, also tried to put on certain critical minerals restrictions on supplies to the US and putting export tariffs. So it is not something that only US can do, because see, if the tariffs works both ways. Number one, it raises the cost for the country exporting, limiting its market access, but it also in turn impacts on the citizens of a country or for the production processes in a country, because then the cost of importing becomes much higher. Now, in that case, it becomes a double jeopardy. And we are looking at a time when there should be less protectionism, but tariffs, this kind of a tariff war is going to be a protectionist. But at the same time, I think that what has happened last time, this will open. You will soon see the U.S. Treasury Secretary, Economic Trade Secretary are all heading to China. There will be discussions and talks among them. President Trump has already spoken twice to Xi since he's taken over. He even invited him there. His vice president attended. So they both know what is the market. Basic idea is that China is also getting ready to import more and more US oil in order to reduce the trade deficit with the United States. So we'll have to see so many changes that will take place going forward, but this is not good, this kind of trade wars for the global trading regimes.
Well, probe. How serious do you think the probe is? Since Google has been under the scanner for a while now by different nations, particularly European Union, do you think China is serious about this probe, or it's just responding to the US tariffs?
You asking me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Please
Ambassador.
go
ahead.
Yeah. The Chinese, I mean, if you study the Chinese behavior, they do not take very kindly to threats, and they immediately reciprocate, and that is something that one has noticed all along. And they have also started working because they knew that in the Trump regime there are going to be the sanctions, there are going to be tariffs that will be increased, but then that provides them a negotiating leverage with the Americans because, like they have, the U.S., as you know, Trump said that baby drill. That means they want to become the biggest exporter of oil and gas to the world at the expense of others. Today, the Chinese are buying very large quantities from Russia and from Middle East and from elsewhere in Latin America. But they will be happy because they need, it's a growing economy, they need for that. So what they are trying to convey message is that it is going to be a two-way process while we are working to reduce the trade deficit by importing more of things. So on the high-tech items, yes, of course, the US will continue that, but if you were to see the statement of Rubio, Marco Rubio, the state secretary, he very clearly said the day before yesterday, if I remember correctly, that there are multiple big players in the world, and US is not the only one. So he feels that this is going to be a multipolar world in different sense, in which geoeconomics is continuing and will continue to play a major role.
Okay. Ambassador, so
Tariff when it
last time,
comes to Chinese goods, while it's halted the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, firing the opening shot of a fresh trade war with Beijing, even though Donald Trump plans to hold talks with Xi Jinping, and that's expected soon.
Well, that surely becomes a talking point, and that's a major talking point between the two countries. And we have always seen that US and China, of course, they have a problem on
Arey
Taiwan.
Bhai.
But as you know, one statement that was made that the US administration currently neither looking for a war nor for the independence of Taiwan. So there is a major irritant in the relationship has somehow been put in the back burner. But the trade is something, the trade deficit, because that's the fundamental thing. Immigration, tariffs, all these things are very important for the China, for the American economy, for the US. And President Trump wants to show progress on that. So this will become a talking point, and eventually you will find that there would be some way out. The Chinese will agree to import more and more so that there is a significant reduction in the trade deficit. And that's precisely what he's looking at today.
So, Ambassador, US and China have been on the same path in the recent past, about 5, 6 years ago. How likely is the conflict to be resolved in the next few days or in the next few months, and how long do you think it could last? And do you think Trump would back down from his stance, or it will take some time? Because as we saw yesterday, when he spoke with both the leaders of Canada and Mexico, there was some resolution to the conflict, but when it comes to China, do you think there will be something similar, or it will have to be something different?
Well, there are two things we need to remember about President Trump, including in the Indian context, that he takes the maximalist position, and that he thinks that is going to give him a negotiating leverage. At the same time, he does not head towards disruption, disrupting the whole relationship. And therefore, according to him, even if he does it, it'll be with a big this thing that I have achieved so and so, so and so, and therefore now there's no need to continue at the same pace. So it's not backing down for him. It'll be really giving him that kind of a thing with his constituency in the United States that I wanted to do that. And his window is not very far. He is looking at 2026 July, basically, which means the 250 years. So he needs to show a lot of progress on important things, like on the migration, basically issues. He'll be showing on the tariffs on the countries that have surpluses with him. So that's why he's going in a very quick manner. Now, you mentioned about the resolution. The thing is, the bit with Canada and Mexico, one should not forget that one of the first trilateral agreement, free trade agreement was NAFTA, which was signed in 1992 between the countries, and during the last Trump regime, it was revived. And so a lot of things are interlinked in these three countries. And so they do realize that their all economies are going to suffer. And then they have also constituencies of these countries in there. China is known to be a major player and partner as well as a contender against the US influence and US supremacy. And therefore, I don't see that they are going to take a lenient view towards China, but they will try to find a modus vivendi for sure.
Right. Of course, that order that was, taken by, Donald Trump just as soon as he has resumed office. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning, and thank you so much, Prashant, also for joining us.